All right, so welcome to everybody and welcome to the Champions of Human Resources Management program brought to you by Learning Impact for the month of August 2025. My name is Omag Bisher Baru and I'm the founder and chief executive of Learning Impact. And I'm very excited to be here with you this evening to share with you some thoughts around the very exciting subject of managing employee performance. I'd like to thank all of us who have joined, both our old and new members alike, and we look forward to a fun and learning-filled evening together as we explore one of the most challenging and highly sought-after areas of strategic human resources management, which is managing employee performance, otherwise known as performance management. I'd just like to check that sound and everybody can hear me and we're clear so that we can jump right in. I'm going to put on my slides and we'll begin the presentation. Thank you very much, Lupe. As usual,
Yes, you can.
very good. As usual, during the course of the presentation, you would have the opportunity to ask questions, to have interaction. So please, let's just wait till that opportune time and when we are called. Otherwise, for the purpose of the recording that is going on, let's put our microphones off and take down notes as we go along, till we are given the opportunity to speak and to interact. Okay, so I'm going to begin as usual by just sharing my slides. And I trust that you can see the slides on the screen. Yep. And we will start off as usual. We start off with a bit of a general introduction where we will talk about Learning Impact, our company, as well as introduce the Champions of HR program for the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time, as well as, as a refresher to those of us who are existing members of our community. So Learning Impact in Abuja, Nigeria, based corporate training, strategy consulting, HR technology, and life skills education firm. We were founded in 2010 and actually began our work 15 years ago as the exclusive licensed partners for John C. Maxwell Leadership Development Programs in Nigeria. We soon moved on from the John Maxwell franchise and programs and began to develop and deliver and implement our own customized Afrocentric and indigenous solutions for clients across the private, the public, and the not-for-profit sector in Nigeria and beyond. Our core propositions are around corporate training and coaching, where we support organizations and the individuals in organizations to be better through our learning and development programs. We also offer organization strategy and organizational development consulting, where we support organizations with tools like the Balance Scorecard to build their organizational strategy, as well as support them in various areas of strategic human resources management, including, of course, performance management and talent management and succession planning, and strengthening the human resources management systems in various organizations. We offer our clients HR technology solutions, including our very popular 360-degree feedback solutions and a variety of other HR tools and automated HR systems. We are also very, very involved in supporting organizations in the area of e-learning. Our flagship, the online Efiko, is growing to be one of the largest indigenous massive open online courseware platforms in Nigeria and potentially Africa. And we help organizations with e-learning conversion, e-learning content development. And of course, we also offer the very popular e-paper vendor, which is one of our knowledge management solutions that provides the complete digital version of a variety of Nigerian newspapers. We believe that newspapers are a veritable source of information and analysis that will help organizations in terms of their strategy and their business development, their branding, and their competitiveness generally. Finally, but not by certainly not the least, is our work in life skills education programs and resources, where we intervene in the lives of the youth and the children and families, teaching important life skills. And it's important we understand what these life skills are. We're not talking about pottery and clay making and beadwork. We're actually talking about leadership and personal effectiveness. We are talking about creativity and innovation. We're talking about communication skills, writing and presentation skills, financial literacy, as well as the skills for political literacy and civic education. These life skills are pervasive skills that we believe that everyone, regardless of your occupation, your vocation, or your business or enterprise, needs to succeed. And we realize that if we can teach children life skills early on in life, they will be better equipped to be able to succeed as children and as students in school, but very much more to prepare them with the foundation that they require to succeed in the real world. So you can visit www.lifeskillsafrica.com and take advantage of the amazing array of life skills education resources that are available. So I've talked a bit about learning impact, what we do and where we've come from. And I'd just like to share with you, very importantly, our commitment. Our vision at Learning Impact is to deploy the best quality of indigenous, Afrocentric learning resources, business solutions, and technology tools to support organizations and individuals to be better. So that word, be better, is a very important part of our proposition. And that concept of being indigenous and Afrocentric is also very important. Our goal at Learning Impact is to positively transform our clients and our community with solutions which speak to their nuanced needs at a price that they can afford and that competes with the best solutions anywhere in the world. Our core value, like I said earlier, is to be better. So for us, no matter how good you are, no matter how bad you are as a person or as an organization in any particular area, we recognize and believe that you can be better. And with Learning Impact, you can certainly be better. So that's really our commitment that really underpins everything that we do at Learning Impact. Finally, as part of the introduction, I'd like to speak with you very quickly about the Champions of HR program. The Champions of HR program is a network of young to mid-career human resources management professionals that receive mentoring and support from us at Learning Impact to grow their careers as human resources management professionals and leaders. Now, the focus of the Champions of HR program is on building what we describe as the strategic HRM capabilities of professionals so that they can add value in the HR space beyond just being operational. We recognize that lots of the, how will I put this? Lots of what HR people do tends to be very operational. So we want to move the practice of HR from being operational to being more strategic. So we started this program in October 2023, and it consists firstly of a monthly webinar that typically takes place on the third Saturday of each month. I think it's taking place a bit later this month due to other programming commitments that we had. And it also includes a very active WhatsApp group for networking, exchange of ideas, and continuous learning and mentoring for all the members. And my colleagues who are here from Learning Impact, working in the background to ensure a very successful program, will certainly be sharing the link for you to join the WhatsApp group. So if you're here for the first time, feel free to click the link that will be shared, if it hasn't been shared already, on the chat, so that you can join the WhatsApp group and continue to enjoy the networking, the exchange of ideas, and the continuous learning and mentoring offered for absolutely for free from the Champions of HR group. And I can see that the link to the group has been shared, as well as the link to the online FICO, which is our flagship learning management system at Learning Impact. So with all of this background and introduction, I think that we are set to jump into today's program on the Champions of HR mentoring program and to explore our learning objectives. So remember, you all came here for it. It's managing employees' performance, also known as performance management. So we will start off as usual with theoretical foundations. We will explore some of the theories in organizational behavior and human resources management and examine what the science and the research of HR and organizational behavior teach us and tell us about the effective practice of performance management. Thereafter, we would explore performance management basics, where we would look at what are the basics, what is performance management, why is it important, and what are some of the essential ingredients of an effective performance management system. We will then move on to talk about the issues and challenges in performance management and just give ourselves an opportunity to explore these issues and challenges. And this will give us an opportunity to interact with each other and learn some of the issues and challenges that our organizations are facing when it comes to performance management. I will introduce the laws of effective performance management that will help to stem some of these issues and challenges, and then move on to talk about best practices in performance, as well as performance management rules and responsibilities within the organization. One of the big challenges is who is responsible for driving performance, and to what extent are those responsible actually doing their jobs. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Champions of Human Resources Management Program, for those of us who are just joining us, my name is Omag Bisher Barrow. It's Bisher for short, and I'm the founder and chief executive of Learning Impact. And I'm very excited, alongside my colleagues at Learning Impact, to welcome you to this edition of the Champions of HR program, and to encourage you to participate meaningfully so that you can improve and move the dial of your capabilities as far as strategic human resources, and in particular today, performance management is concerned. I mentioned at the beginning that the Champions of HR group is targeted at young to mid-career human resources professionals, but we have always been blessed by the participation of some of the very senior members of the human resources management community in Nigeria who have plenty of experience. We're always happy to come back here to learn and to unlearn and to relearn and to teach us also from their, from their bounty of knowledge and experience on the subject. So we continue to encourage other very experienced HR leaders and professionals to join us and to participate with us. So let's start with theoretical foundations. Again, let's examine what the science of human resources management and organizational behavior teaches us in terms of certain theories that will help us to understand performance management in the proper context and in the proper manner that we should. I've set forth a number of theories here. They are certainly not exhaustive, but there are 5 critical theories. And as a student and a researcher and a scholar in the area of organizational behavior, these are very, very important theories. And as we go through them one after the other, we'll make the connection towards what their impact on effective performance management. The first of them on the screen, as you can see, is goal setting theory. Goal setting theory basically proposes and teaches that when you have clear, specific, and challenging goals, you have a higher possibility of driving higher performance. So clear, specific, and challenging goals essentially drive higher performance. So organizations want higher performance. Goal setting theory says if the goals are clear, they're specific, and they are challenging, then you are more likely to drive higher performance. So people who set goals that are not clear, people who set goals that are not challenging, unfortunately, you're not going to get the performance that you want. Expectancy theory is another very important theory in organizational behavior that teaches and proposes that Human motivation and performance increases when people's efforts leads to performance, when that performance leads to rewards, and when the rewards are valued and valuable to the people. All right. So again, the theory and the research and the science of organizational behavior showing us that there's a relationship, and there should be a relationship between effort, between performance and rewards, and between rewards and the value and how people appreciate the rewards. And that when all of these elements are together, it creates the expectancy for people to work, to produce results, and to be rewarded. Reinforcement theory is the third theory that I would share with you very quickly this afternoon. And it basically says that all human behavior is shaped by consequences. There are many organizations that struggle with performance and results and achievement of their goals because there are no consequences. Reinforcement theory stipulates very correctly through well-established research and observations that if you want behavior to be in a particular direction, if you want people to deliver proper results, if you want people to behave in line with your values, if you want people to behave in line with your organizational culture, which will promote your strategy and help you achieve your results, then there have to be consequences. So consequence management, as you can decipher, is a very important part of performance management. Agency theory is yet again another very important theory in organizational behavior that explains that when the interests of the principals, and we need to understand those words now, that there is a principal-agent relationship. The principals in an organization would be the shareholders, the directors, the owners, the executives of the business. And when there is a relationship between the interests, when there is alignment between the interests of the owners of a business and the people who are working for that business, their agents, then your results will improve. So very importantly, agency theory introduces us to the concept and the importance of alignment, the alignment between the interests of the owners of a business and the employees in the business. And this alignment, you will no doubt appreciate, is an important component of performance management. Finally, but not exhaustively, is the powerful theory of person to job fit, the person to job fit theory. And this theory explains and postulates that when capabilities of an individual, of an employee, of a manager, of a leader aligns with the expectations of its organization or its job or the person's job, then job performance and job satisfaction are maximized. So again, that powerful concept of square pegs in square holes, that if you are able to find, place, select the right people who have the right person to job fit alignment between their personal characteristics and capabilities and the expectations of their job, that performance and job performance and job satisfaction would be maximized. So with all of this theoretical background about performance management, looking at 5 different theories, which are certainly not exhaustive: goal setting theory, expectancy theory, reinforcement theory, agency theory, and person to job fit theory, we will now move on very quickly to define performance management in a simple but yet powerful way, and then explain why performance management makes a difference and what difference it actually tries to make. Performance management, in my mind, is very simply the systems, structures, practices, and approaches that organizations deploy to achieve organizational goals through the people in the organization. So there are many organizations have a variety of tools. Organizations have different resources at their disposal, but performance management is particularly focused at how organizations achieve performance and goals through the people. Now, many people don't know this, or maybe they know, but they've never really thought about it, that there is a prime objective in performance management. There is a key goal that performance management wants to achieve. The cardinal goal of performance management, of all of our systems, policies, structures, practices, and approaches, is to ensure that performance happens. It sounds quite simplistic, but you see, that is one of the biggest failures of performance management. That in the practice of performance management, people do not realize the prime objective. The objective of performance management is not to just align employees. It's not just to measure and evaluate performance. It's not certainly just to reward employees. And I'm saying this because a lot of times you find organizations where they actually talk about performance management, and all they say, and I know some of your organizations are guilty of it. I have consulted from many organizations for the last 20 years or so in Nigeria. And I find that almost, even in the literature, even in the scientific literature, even when people write about performance management in articles and so on, they always say performance appraiser. You get a company, they invite us, they say, oh, come and improve our appraisal system. I say, is it the appraisal system you want to improve? They say, come and give us a seminar on appraisal. Is it appraisal or is it performance management? You see, because appraisal is only a component of performance management. And this definition and conceptual and scoping limitation is a problem, because what it means in practical effect is that people tend to focus almost exclusively on performance appraisal to the detriment of the other parts of performance management. And once you do this, then it is no surprise that the performance management system in your organization is not working effectively. Like I said during the introduction, unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately for us, performance management is considered one of the most challenging and highly sought after strategic HRM areas. What do I mean? That if you ask the typical organizational leader what is one of the biggest challenges that they face, they will tell you in the HR space, it's performance management. If you ask human resources management professionals, one of the biggest challenges they face, they will tell you it is performance management. And if you think about, and it's no surprise, because performance management is at the heart of the matter. It is the place where the rubber hits the road. The reason why organizations exist is to achieve sustainable competitive advantage. Sustainable competitive advantage can only be achieved through an effective system of performance management. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that's a bit of the background of what performance management is and why it is important. So I'm going to pause at this point and ask participants, what do you think so far? Do you have any questions, any areas that you would like to seek clarification before we jump into continue discussing the performance management process and some of the key issues and challenges in performance management? So this is an opportunity for us to stop and check in with what we have learned so far. Let me check in on the chat if anybody has any questions. Thank you very much and good afternoon, Angela. Great to have you as usual. Questions, comments on what we have explored so far. Performance management, the key theories that support it, what performance management is and why it is important. Let's see. The floor is open. Questions? Comments? Clarifications? All right, it looks like we're good. I hope it's not a case of I'm talking too quickly, I'm talking above your head, but it's a case that you understand what we're doing so far. I hope so too. Thank you for that feedback. So let's move on to explore the performance management process. So we've said we've explored the theories. We've defined what performance management is. We have identified why performance management is important. So let's explore the performance management process. It essentially consists of 6 distinct steps. Depending on who is teaching and who is writing, it might be a little less or it might be a little more. It might be get an extended version. Essentially, performance management consists of these 6 processes, these 6 steps. The first one is strategy alignment. Strategy alignment is about ensuring that whatever it is, that agency theory, remember agency theory, remember that whatever it is that people are doing every day at work, there is a clear line of sight between the work that we do as busy ants in our organizations every day and the high level overarching organizational strategy. So if there is no strategy alignment, then then what are you doing? You are just a busy ant, and that's not very valuable. So a critical part of performance management is ensuring that there is strategy alignment, that employees at every single level in the organization, from the security man, everybody all the way up to the chief executive of the organization, to the cleaners, to the janitors, that there is alignment between the individual tasks in our departments, in our units, in our divisions, in our SBUs, and the ultimate strategy of the organization. All right, so that's the very first important part. So when you say performance management, so when, for example, like I said earlier on, when people speak about performance management and they're only talking about appraisals, somebody wrote a very popular article many years ago in Harvard Business Review, and he said, an appraisal of what? So we talk about appraisals, but an appraisal of what? We must ensure that we are appraising what matters. And we can only figure out what matters when we pay attention to what? To strategy alignment. The second important part of performance management process is performance contracting. Performance contracting is about sitting down and agreeing the performance goals of the organization. What are the specific goals that we want the different individuals within the team, within the unit, and so on to achieve? So performance contracting, having a clear contract, setting the expectations, remember, in terms of goal theory and expectancy theory. So performance contracting is absolutely important versus you just dumping goals and forcing goals down the throats of people in the organization. We believe that performance contracting should be a mutual process where we sit together with our line managers and with our team members, and we create and co-create goals that are strategy aligned. The third aspect of the performance management process is the ongoing performance and feedback. What do we mean by this? That on a continuous basis, you are performing, and on a continuous basis, as you go to work to perform through the various projects and activities and initiatives that go on in your organization, you are also getting feedback from your colleagues through that mutual accountability that is important in teamwork, and you're also getting feedback from your supervisors and so on and so forth. The fourth part of the performance management process is performance monitoring. There must be systems in place within the performance management system to monitor performance, to check with people, to ensure that people are doing their work, to evaluate performance, to give us a sense of where we are, to track our performance, to use things like dashboards and so on to report performance on an interim basis so that we can see where we are. Where's our cost to income ratio? Where's our profit before tax? Where's our funds and assets under management? And all of those indices, those performance indices and KPIs that were created in the performance contracts. Very importantly, having monitored performance from time to time, organizations must stop and ask themselves, what do we need to do to improve performance? Organizations typically do this through monthly performance reviews, one-on-one performance feedback, performance coaching, quarterly performance reviews, half-yearly performance reviews, where we go through the process of performance consulting. And if you remember, participants on this program many, many months ago, we explored performance contracting, and we also explored performance consulting as practices in strategic human resources management. So performance improvement is about performance consulting, performance improvement plans, PIPs, and all the things that we do throughout the course of the performance cycle to ensure that performance is achieved. Recall again that the purpose of performance management is to ensure that what? That we achieve performance. So performance improvement is a critical part. So again, I bring up that point that if you call your policy in your organization performance appraisal policy, then where is the room for contracting? Where's the room for monitoring? Where's the room for improvement? Finally, but not exhaustively, is performance appraisals and decisions. So this is where appraisals come in. Appraisals are just one part of the other 6 parts of an effective performance management system. So performance appraisals happen, and after the performance appraisals are decisions that impact on people's pay, on people's grades, on people's career progression, and sometimes decisions that may actually lead to the exit of people from the organization, right? And of course, part of the decision sometimes with performance appraisals include things like learning and development, training that people need to receive, mentoring and coaching, and even performance counseling and improvement plans that need to be put in place to support performance. Ladies and gentlemen of the Champions of HR Group, this is a holistic performance management process. So the next thing we want to talk about is that based on our experience with this process, what are some of the most challenging issues? What are some of the challenges and issues that stifle the effectiveness of performance management in our organizations? And at this point, I'd like to ask you, let's throw the floor open for questions, but more importantly, to try to interrogate this thought. What, in your experience, are some of the biggest issues and challenges with performance management? The floor is open. I will take about 3 interventions according to my producer. Let me just check with my producer. Yes, my producer says I can take about 3 interventions in this area. And you can also feel free to share on the chat your thoughts about what are some of the biggest issues and challenges in performance management. Who would like to open the floor this evening with us on the subject of issues and challenges in performance management? You are practitioners, you are in the thick of it. So tell us, what are some of those issues and challenges that you face in performance management in your organizations?
Okay, let me share. Hello.
Yes, hello. Who's out there? Talk to
Okay.
us.
I think thank you very much for the presentation so far and for the questions. The little contribution I have from my end is for one of the biggest challenges of performance management process in organization is I want to pick on the issue of performance contracting, which you explained, which the second of the process. On the process map, the second item, which is performance contracting. I noticed that the biggest challenge of performance management in the organization is basically on this contracting, because I understand from your explanation and maybe the previous lessons we have taken that this is where people have to set their goals, set their KPIs, set whatever they are going to do within the whole calendar year, or maybe within the time frame that the contracting has been given. And one of the biggest challenges, people are working in the organization, they really do not know what they need to do, their plans. They really do not pick their priorities. That actually enhance a very poor setting of goals that cannot actually yield a positive result in the organization within the time frame. So one of the biggest challenge which I notice is, one, many employees do not know exactly what they need to do in the positions where they are. It makes it so difficult that when you enforce them to set their goals or KPIs, they tend to set the goals that they may even achieve it, but they will have a no positive impact on the organization.
All right. Thanks very much for sharing that, James. According to James's experiences, setting performance contracts and ensuring that they are properly done, isn't it? James, it's interesting. I was with a client recently and they were telling me that they don't even share the strategy. An organization shared with me that they don't even share their strategy with their employees. And I said, wow, how do you ensure strategy alignment when the employees don't even know what the priorities are? Like James said. So what you find is people at the end of the year, we also had a client many years ago, that at the end of the year, people are getting promoted, but the chief executive and the shareholders, the principals are asking that, how are we promoting people when the people are not delivering the results that matter? And the answer was obvious. The performance contracting system was weak because they had performance contracts, James, they had KPIs, but the KPIs had nothing to do with what was important, what the priorities were, and that was a complete waste of everybody's time. So these are hardcore realities. I see the hand of Anika. Anika, please go ahead and make your contribution or ask your question. Hello, Anika.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Well, I wanted to share what is currently going on in my organization, but I don't want to give too much information to put it out there. But I think we have an issue stemming from the ongoing performance and feedback straight down to the performance appraisals and decision making. Recently, we had staff that are on contracts, but at the end of their 3-year contract period, they won't be given another contract. They were hired in a batch. So there was a batch of employees, and when you look at it, at the end of that 3-year contract, they were told that they didn't reach certain or attain certain targets. However, those targets were not given to them at the beginning of that contract period. And at every year, that contract period, they were evaluated. So at the end of the first year, they were evaluated and they were told that they were doing well, continue keeping up the good work, etc. The second year, all was well. And at the third year, they were told that they looked at their performance and they didn't reach that target, so they won't allow to come back on that contract. So when you look at the other employees that were in their batch, some of them outperformed those who were given a contract. And what I'm seeing is now that it went to higher persons within the organizations, and they were asking what was done during that time. Did they receive any training? What sort of measures were put in place? And only to find out when they perused their files and such, no training was given. No, they didn't write them based on behaviors. If they had negative behaviors, they didn't write them, they didn't inform them, they were not even on file. So the question now by a head in the organization is that, well, not a question, but a suggestion was that they bring them back on a contract, maybe for a shorter period of time, set clear performance standards and targets, as well as set clear performance and targets and monitor them so that they won't just be out of a contract and they won't face any legal complications. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much for sharing that, Anika. So, real life scenario where performance expectations are not clear, people don't know, and then somewhere along the way, okay, your performance is not good enough, and then you also realize some of the key components of the performance management system were not incorporated. So it's almost as if listening to Anika and the example is that what tends to happen is that we just do appraisal and decision. But again, appraisal of what? The goals were not clear, they were not clearly understood. And of course, all the other things are meant to happen in between. She talked about the fact that there was no ongoing feedback, there was no engagement, there was no performance monitoring, like where are we, and so on and so forth. And there was no effort to build the capacity of the people to improve. These are all important elements. If all we do in performance management is appraisal and decision, then that's not performance management. That's just appraisal and decision. Finally, Angela has her hand up. Angela, please go ahead and share with us your thoughts around the biggest impediments and challenges and issues in performance management from your perspective.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm actually, I had to park because I'm on the road. And thank you for sharing this thoughts with us, what you have shared around strategy, performance contracting, all the way to decision. This is actually what the process should be. I have the opportunity of having seen where paper-based performance appraisals are done, and now we're using success factors, PMGM, performance management system. So still, people find it difficult to accept the outcome of the performance appraiser. That is where you have done the strategy, you have done your cascading of your KPIs according to what the business is out to achieve for the year. And then we're lucky we have the mid-year appraiser, which gives people the opportunity to see where they are, that's monitoring, where they are now, and what they need to do better to improve, to hit the mark at the end of the year when you'll be doing the full year appraisal. So having done all of this, it gets to the full year and the performance appraisals are done. Calibration is done, because then a lot of people, line managers especially, want to project their people, you want to promote. But what is the business outcome? How well is the business doing? So our challenge is mainly with line managers who are still doing performance appraisals with the mindset of reward. Okay, so the performance management is not just about reward. You do the evaluation, but the developmental part of it is what I see more as the main point in performance management. Yes, reward will come, but how well is the business doing? So by the time it goes to calibration, where the chiefs are discussing the business outcome, profit margin, and all of that, and then the feedback gets back to the people. The manager had already said you are promoted to XYZ in the appraiser. By the time the calibration is done and then results are given, it's not what he recommended that is the outcome. So you see people grumbling, not accepting what it is. My manager has said I am this, but what you're coming back to give me, the problem is HR. So they make it look like this HR problem. The line manager makes it look like he's the angel, and so the HR is the problem. So that's the challenge where it is. Otherwise, this process, if followed critically and intentionally, you will get the quality of the people. You will get people coming to realize the reason why we do performance appraisals is not just about promotion, it's not just about rewards, but developmental, because they don't want to see the area where they are lacking and improve on it. They just want to see people until you promote them to the point of, they are no longer able to perform in the role that they are handling. So major challenge, we need to train the line managers. We need to make the managers realize that they are the first HR, and HR is not their problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. Very profound. Key thing I got out of there is that misalignment problem between what the organization prioritizes and what it is that is in our KPIs. Because you see, if at the end of the day, there is perfect alignment between the strategy and the performance goals, whether they are OKRs or KPIs or whatever language we want to use to describe them, then it is less likely that there will be this fundamental error. You see, Angela described the fundamental error, and we face it all the time, that by the time the appraisals are done, and then everybody is getting 90% in their KPIs, then you take it to the senior management or the executive management committee, and they are looking and saying, but the business only did 35%. So if a business is doing 35%, and everybody, the average of everybody is 85%, then there's a huge disparity. Because you see, the average of all our performance should reflect in the organizational performance. The reason why it doesn't is because there's an alignment problem and there's a contracting problem. People are being contracted to do things that don't matter. I hope we can see that. That's all that's going on. People are being contracted. We are creating KPIs and OKRs and performance goals that are not really focused on what matters. Because if they were focused on what matters, and it was well distributed and well cascaded through the organization and through the employees, then our average performance as individuals will be very close to the real life average performance of the organization. And sometimes people say, oh, it's because of the people in the back office and people in the middle office. Well, people in the back office and the middle office must also have goals that are strategy aligned. And if you've done this properly and calibrated this properly, then you won't have a problem with this disparity between the results that come at the end of the year through the appraisals and the real business results that happen. Okay. And like she said, sometimes it's just about a blame game and people just being polite. Everybody just wants to, let my people go, as we say sometimes in Nigeria, without really paying attention to the agency problem. You are a manager. You are representing a shareholder. There's an expectation the shareholder has. The employees are agents, and you have to meet the expectations of your principal. And if you're not meeting the expectations of your principal, how can you then be recommending people for huge bonuses and huge promotions? It's inconsistent. There are a number of comments on the chat, and I'll just take a few of those comments. And I'd like to thank everybody, James, Anika, and Angela for their contributions. Chinedu says it's line managers being ill-equipped to effectively manage employee performance, considering it to be a HR problem, which supports some of what Angela also said. Anita went on to say that one of the biggest challenges and issues is alignment, that there is an alignment problem, and we have explored that already. Ene Ogbeche talks about, as a question, what happens if the departmental head seems not to understand the job so well, even though he's good in managing certain situations? How can this situation be handled, knowing well that he sets the KPI for the department? Again, an interesting point you make. So if the departmental head is not well aligned, but even more interesting is what you say is that the departmental head sets the KPI. Does he really or does she really? As far as we know, the KPIs should be co-created. We should all sit down together, co-create it. And one of the things we found in some of our organizations is that we shouldn't just leave it to the department head. That if the department head sits with his team members or her team members and co-creates the KPIs and the OKRs for the team, there should be some input from the executive. You see, what's going on is this: executives are forming too busy. And I'll be very critical of executives because executives are the first level of the agency. They are the first level of the people. So whether it's a chief executive like myself in the organization or other executive directors who the heads of departments report to, you can't just say that your HODs have set KPIs. You need to review those KPIs. You need to agree those KPIs. It has to be a bottom-up, top-down, 360-degree approach to KPI setting. You can't just say, oh, leave it to the HOD. The HOD is doing it from his perspective. So that conversation that an executive, that a CEO, that an ED would have with an HOD, because you see, the CEO and the ED sit in the boardroom. The HOD does not. So the CEO and the ED are closer to the principal. Remember, agency theory. So they must bring to bear their inputs and their perspectives and the lens through which the principal sees things into performance contracting. So we've had clients where we've had to work with them to say, executive directors, CEOs, you need to review the departmental KPIs. You cannot just say the department head has set the KPI. So I guess that that may address some of the concerns that you have. Esther Oliver says that my main problem is with strategy alignment. So strategy alignment is certainly a very important problem. Emmanuel Issa says the biggest challenge of performance management is the aspect of monitoring, that you have set the goals and everything is in place, but without proper monitoring, the whole thing will be a flop. Very, very profound, Emmanuel, that if there is no system of monitoring and giving feedback and checking, remember, the purpose of performance management is not just to appraise and reward. You want to be able to check, are we doing well? How well are we doing? And what needs to improve? So if there is no system for monitoring, then how can you know where you are? So what you do, according to Emmanuel, and what I'm sensing from what you are feeling, is that what happens is that at the end of the year, you wait 1 year, and at the end of the year, you say, oh my, we have failed. Well, you could have prevented the failure in the 3rd month, in the 5th month, in the 7th month. But without a good system of monitoring, then you wait till the 12th month and say, oh my, we have failed. That's not an effective performance management system. So thanks for sharing that, Emmanuel. Osamuyi says, oh, sorry about that. The background noise from some of us is quite distracting. And then Emmanuel asks a question, where is the place of data management? Very important. And that's that whole concept of evidence-based performance management. Where is the data? Where is the evidence? And it is that evidence that is a basis, Emmanuel, of that monitoring that you are talking about. Where are the dashboards? Where's the tracker? How do we know where we are in terms of our performance goals? And if we don't have a system for tracking and monitoring, then we certainly cannot have an effective performance management system. All right. So thanks everybody for your contributions. And I think that all your contributions clearly speak to the issues and challenges that we discussed, that part of the issues and challenges with performance is measurement and metrics, managerial capability, low trust in performance management systems, leadership and work culture and the role of leaders in driving performance management, as well as some of the bias and subjectivity in reviews that take place that some of us highlighted, and very importantly, the low level of employee engagement. These are all very important things and challenges that affect performance management. And we can see that from the contributions and the inputs from everybody in the room, these things are real. And when performance management doesn't happen properly, individuals suffer, work suffers, performance suffers, and most importantly, the organization and the goals that the organization wants to achieve also suffer. To address these challenges in performance management, we often talk about what we describe as the 3 laws of effective performance management. One of them is quite a funny law, the way that we capture it at Learning Impact, the way that I have coined it. And it says that you should seek first the kingdom of co-created smart performance goals, and everything else will be added to you. You can see clearly, if you are a Christian, you would understand where I am borrowing some of this language from with due permission and hoping that I'm not offending the religion. But it basically speaks to the primacy of goal setting. That if you have co-created and smart goals, you can't get it wrong. This is the cornerstone of effective performance management. Law number 2, and this speaks to what Emmanuel Issa was saying, is that you must ensure that there is evidence-based tracking, monitoring, and reporting. And that is the basis of your performance appraisal. The reason why people contest performance appraisal results and the decisions that come up is because they don't consider it evidence-based. It is based on people's, when your KPIs are not based on evidence, when your OKRs are not based on evidence, there's no data to back it up, then it is no surprise that it will be contentious. Thirdly, very important rule, law number 3, is to build the capacity of your managers to provide coaching. What we want are leaders that coach, managers that are performance coaches. Once these 3 laws are in place, I assure you that your performance management system will be top-notch. Seek first the kingdom of smart, co-created performance goals, and everything else will be added to you. Ensure that there's appropriate tracking and reporting to evaluate performance. And of course, build the capacity of your managers and your leaders to carry out their job. And a number of people spoke about this. Angela spoke about it, and somebody else chatted about it, that it is the responsibility of line managers to drive performance. You are the owner of the performance. The human resources department is not the owner of performance, but unfortunately, in many organizations, line managers don't really understand this. In fact, line managers are constantly fighting and pushing back on this responsibility. So what are some of those things that we need to do? What are some of those best practices that come out of these laws? And I'll share some of those best practices with you. And then we will end by exploring the rules and responsibilities in performance management and some of the issues that also need to be resolved. So remember these 3 laws. I see Osamuyi having a good laugh. I'm sure it is about the first law, which says you should seek first the kingdom of co-created and smart performance goals, and everything else will be added on to you. Best practices in performance management include driving strategy alignment. That is, ensuring that everybody understands the organizational strategy, ensuring that everybody sees a clear line of sight between the work that they do and the strategy of the organization. And everybody can see that this thing that I do as a teller, this thing that I do as a clerk, this thing that I do as a data entry operator, that everything that people do, they can see the relationship between what they do and the high-level organizational strategy. The second best practice that we see that is very important, if you've been listening, is the co-creation of the goals. I wrote a case study in Harvard Business Review many years ago about our experience in Stanbic IBTC, part of the Standard Bank Group in Africa, about how we tried to implement the balanced scorecard. And one of the weaknesses was people were just pushing goals and saying, oh, the goal came from London, the goal came from Johannesburg, the goal came from the head office in Lagos, and so on and so forth. That's not very effective. You've got to create and co-create the goals. Then evidence-based appraisals. Emmanuel talked about this. Where's the role of data? If there is no evidence, look, if you have a KPI that cannot be backed by evidence, then throw away that KPI. It's not, if there's no evidence, if any KPI can only be evaluated based on what people feel or what they think, then remove it from your KPIs, remove it from your OKRs. Everything must be driven by evidence. Very important practice is to develop managerial capability. One of the biggest issues in organizational behavior today is how capable are our managers to lead people, to manage people. And if we have managers and supervisors and team leads who are so neck deep in doing the work that they do not have time to provide leadership to their people, then we have a problem. From time to time, we also recommend as a best practice that we should evaluate our performance management process and systems. There should be a system for continuous evaluation, asking ourselves, how well are we doing? How well are line managers doing? How well are the performance contracts? So organizations do a performance management audit from time to time to check that the performance management system is well tuned and working. And very, very importantly, by no means the least, and this is not an exhaustive list of best practices, is to link learning and culture to performance. There must be a relationship between the investments that organizations make in learning and development and in building organizational culture to performance management. Because if there is no relationship between learning and performance, one, a lot of the training that you are doing in your organization is wasteful. Two, you would create a culture that will destroy your strategy and eat up your performance. So you want culture imperatives to be built into the performance management system. You want to hold people accountable for their behaviors, not just their results, because ultimately the wrong behaviors will drive the wrong results. So you want the right behaviors and you want to incorporate those behaviors into performance management. And that's why organizations do things like employee net promoter scores, organizations do things like employee surveys and 360-degree leadership feedback and behavioral feedback reviews, and try to, get some data about where we are in terms of how well employees are motivated and aligned with the organization. And then we incorporate that into the performance management system. Finally, but not exhaustively, we would explore the roles and responsibilities of the various parties in performance management. And at this point, I would throw the floor open to some conversations by just sharing out these questions. Okay, so on the screen, you can see a number of critical questions. Question 1. Who is primarily responsible for performance management in our organizations? How well are line managers playing their roles in performance management and why? What are some of the impediments to the effectiveness of managers in playing their roles? And what can HR professionals do to improve managerial participation in performance management and performance management outcomes generally? The floor is open. Let me see those hands. And let's see who would like to make a contribution towards these discussions. Feel free to answer any of the questions on the screen. Yes, anybody? Do I see a hand? Okay, I see something on the chat. Primary responsibility is the line manager. Yes, and that's going to be a hard sell. One of the hardest sells that HR people need to make, that to get line managers to agree and to accept that they are responsible for performance, and the reason is because sometimes you hear line managers say, well, I have my own job, but when you push back, you have to sit with them and say, okay, so what's your job? Your job is to ensure that your team performs. Performance management is the system, structures, processes, and approaches that ensure performance happens. So what's the problem? That's your job. Your job is performance management. In fact, the key job of a leader, of a manager, of a team lead, of a unit head, of a department head is performance management, because your job is to ensure that people perform. So what other job do you have? But I think part of the problem is a definition problem, a conceptualization problem. People think that performance management is performance appraisal. Therefore, if they limit themselves and limit their understanding in that way, then they don't think that's their job. They think it's somebody else's job. It's HR's job. And oftentimes in the real world, I mean, I've interviewed managers and I've heard them say things like, on various research projects we have done where we're collecting data and feedback, you hear managers say, these HR people should just allow us do our job and they should focus on theirs. That these HR people are so lazy that they want us to do their job for them. And then I ask them, so what is your job? They say, my job is to ensure we achieve results. I say, okay. And you achieve the results through what? In the words of John Maxwell, who are you leading? You say you are a leader. What are you leading? Are you leading biro and paper and chalk and computers? No, you are leading people. So people management is your job. Performance management is your job. The primary responsibility for performance management lies with managers. HR plays a role in doing what? In creating the strategy, creating the policies, providing guidance, providing support, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And that says, I believe, like you mentioned, line managers majorly should drive performance management because they are closer. They are the owner. We say the line manager is the owner of the performance. So who else? Who else? But of course, this is where the challenge is. Part of the challenge also, I must confess, is that line managers then say, but the problem is that HR is not giving us the requisite support. James, for example, you mentioned that, oh, the problem is the KPIs. And then I throw this back to the HR community. How skilled are HR managers in defining KPIs? So if you are a HR manager, you're a HR professional, and the line manager who you are supporting says that, oh, I don't really know how to set the KPIs. Can you help him? Can you teach him? Can you coach him? Can you mentor him? Can you provide guidance to him? That is not vague. Can you roll up your sleeves and say, okay, sit down, let's look at your business. What's your strategy? How does it align with the overall strategy of the organization? What are the key drivers of success in your department? Can you have these types of technically sound discussions with your line managers? Because if this is what line managers have told me, and this is what we have also observed, if all HR people are doing is pushing back and saying, line managers are responsible, line managers are responsible. Well, line manager, go and develop your KPIs. Line manager, go and... If HR cannot sit down and query the KPIs that line managers develop, if HR cannot tell line managers that your KPIs are not effective and these are better KPIs and provide superior arguments about those KPIs, then HR is not also performing their role. Because if the role of HR is to provide guidance and support, then the person providing guidance and support should go beyond the platitudes, should go beyond just saying, oh, it's your responsibility, go and handle it. HR people are meant to be the experts in performance. Yes, whereas the line manager is the person who drives performance management, HR is meant to be the experts, the subject matter experts in performance management. It's meant to be the guru of performance management. But we all can see that that's not true. That's not real. Many HR people are not the gurus. So it is what, again, akin to scriptural reference. It is the blind leading the blind. Sometimes, unfortunately, and I'm not making a general statement about all HR people, but I'm saying that from our experience, what we have observed, research we have done, and what is out there, it's very clear that there are gaps. So HR, don't be in a hurry to blame it on the line manager. Ask yourself, as a HR person, how well have you built your capacity to understand the key drivers of the business? So whether you are in the financial industry, you are in the oil and gas industry, what do you understand what drives results? And are you able to take those key drivers and convert them to performance goals and suggest them and sell those performance goals and KPIs to the line managers? And if you're not able to do that, then you haven't done your job. Yeah, there are a few other questions there around, how well the line managers are doing it and so on and so forth. And, what some of the things that affect the effectiveness and the impediments to line managers playing their roles, as well as what HR can do to improve the capacity of line managers. It would be nice to hear from you guys what you think about some of those other questions as we explore, performance management rules and responsibilities towards making performance management more effective. The floor is open. Let's talk. Let's interact. Anika says, I agree, the blind leading the blind. Yeah. And I believe that was in response to, the reality that HR also has to understand the business better. And that's why we encourage HR people, for example, read the newspapers, on the Champions of HR group. We're always talking about it every single day. Broaden your strategic and your business acumen. Because if you don't understand the industry in which you operate, if you don't understand the markets, if you don't understand your clients, if you don't understand your prospects, if you don't understand the pain that the line managers are going through, then how dare you tell line managers that they are not doing their job of people management properly? So you see, it's a mutual thing. There's mutual accountability. Line managers have a role, but HR has a role. And if both of us don't play those are our roles properly, then we certainly have a problem. Yeah. All right. Any more thoughts, questions? Let's leave it open now. Let's talk. What can HR people do? What are some of the impediments? Have I harassed the HR people so much into silence that you don't want to share some thoughts about, or have I given you so much to think about? And I hope I have anyway. That would be my goal, to get you to think about, your own role. Yeah. Osamuyi says that clear job roles and responsibilities, of course. And so, Osamuyi, this is important. So who is going to design the jobs? Who is going to create the job descriptions? Again, HR has to be able to provide proper guidance, coaching, mentoring, and support for line managers to say, look, I've looked at the JDs in your department, and these JDs are not very specific. They're not very crisp. They don't speak to the actual expectations. They don't speak to the actual performance. They don't speak to the things that people are doing every day and the expectations that we have of people every day. Aha. Because sometimes people take their job descriptions and take it as, license and say, this is what my job description said. And if my job description didn't say this, then I'm not responsible for it. Whose fault is that? So when your line managers produce job descriptions, HR people should be able to look at those job descriptions with a very critical lens, with a very critical view, and give feedback to the line manager. And so it's not enough to just say, oh, I think the line managers don't do job descriptions properly. Okay, roll up your sleeves, get your hands in the dirt, and help them to improve their job descriptions. Yeah, so Osamu, I agree with you 150% that clear job roles and responsibilities, clear delineation of responsibilities and duties, clear handover processes, all of those things. And that's what HR should be doing, making sure that those things in performance and in organizational design are effective. Don't just say line manager did it. Check what the line manager did. Don't allow line managers to set KPIs without you being involved. The article I referred to from the Balanced Scorecard Report and Harvard Business Review shows the HR team trying to evaluate and ask critical questions and critique the work done by line managers. And it was through that evaluation and critique that we deciphered a lot of the rot that was wrong with the performance management system. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, as we wind down for this afternoon, what are you going to do? What are the key things that you have learned? What are the areas for further learning that you would like to explore? And how are you going to explore and translate all of this action back at work? I'd like to hear from some of you what you think. What are some of the key things you have learned? What are areas that you would like to explore further as you learn about performance management? And this could help us for further content and further support to you of the Champions of HR group. And how would you like to translate all of these into action back at work? The floor is open. Feel free to indicate and go ahead to share with us your thoughts on these 3 questions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, sir, for insight. It's a continuous improvement for me. So in the area of business acumen, I think I'm guilty, but I need to do more. So I would concentrate on that and also see how I can support the line managers better in carrying out this task, because truly most of them really don't know, and they need to go through trainings, coaching, and generally support hand holding, if you will, of the task, because if they win, I will do on my own part. Continuous process. Thank you.
Right. Thanks very
Sorry,
much.
I'm still on the road. I hope I made sense. I hope you heard me.
Yes, we heard plenty of what you said around what you need to do to improve business acumen and provide better support and more support to line managers and so on and so forth. Excellent contributions, Angela. Yes. I see also, I have a question. On the first rule, seek first the kingdom of co-created good. My question is it just HR and line managers, or what is the role of the employee? Yeah, so remember, the employee is the performer. So the employee must be in that process. And this is coming from my colleague at Learning Impact. I believe that's Joy, our program manager. The employee is part of the process. So the employee must be part of the co-creation. So in the co-creation of the performance goals, the employee is involved in the co-creation, right? The employee is the key agent. So remember the agency theory. The employee is the one doing the work. So the employee must be committed. The employee must take ownership. The employee cannot be a passive participant. The employee cannot say, oh, my orgas, my leaders, my managers, as we say in Nigeria, have done are responsible. Anything they say I should do, I will do. No. The employee should also be hungry. The employee should also be goal-oriented. The employee should also be saying, oh, I want to know what the strategy is. I want to understand the strategy. I want to understand how the strategy affects my job. So the employee cannot be passive. The employee is critical. But the thing about it is that there is a line manager who oversees and supervises that employee, who represents, a level of interface between the principal, the owners of the business, and the agent, the employee. So everybody working hand in hand must ensure that all of these things work. So thanks for that question. I think it's very critical that you ask that question, Joy, because like you have identified, the employee has a role to play. Now, Esther Oliver says that there's a wise difference between performance management, which I didn't know till now. Exactly. Huge difference, that appraisal is part of performance management. They're not two separate things, and you cannot be talking about appraisal without the rest of the performance management system. So Esther, I'm happy that you have learned something new, and I hope that you would have the audacity to go back into your organization and apply what you have learned into making a difference in your organization. Yeah. Let's see what else. We also have Emmanuel. I would like to improve in the area of quality data management to drive performance management in my organization. So one of the things that we have in Emmanuel that we've helped a number of organizations to do is around what we call is a tool called the S Tracker. It's one of the most amazing tools that we've created at Learning Impact. I love it so much. And the S Tracker is a tool that helps you to track strategy initiatives. So Angela talked about the use of technology. Technology in itself cannot, ensure that all your performance management things work, but it can help. It can be a very important enabler and accelerator of your processes as far as performance management is concerned. So we've got the S Tracker that helps organizations to have a holistic view of their strategy, their goals, and their initiatives. And then they can monitor this and have dashboards to help line managers and employees to understand what the principal wants, and what they are meant to do as agents, and ensure that that agency theory is intact. And also we've got, even a tool called the P-Rater, which is a performance management software, which is part of, a broader HR information system. One of the things we find, Emmanuel, is that we've looked at a lot of the performance, the HR information systems, the HR information automation tools that exist in the market. And we find that when it comes to performance management, they don't do a lot of the software, and I say this with due respect to our competitors, a lot of the software are not addressing the holistic performance management. They focus a lot on appraisal. So what you have in is a lot of performance appraisal modules. What we need is performance management software. And then even larger than that is that you find that a lot of our HR information systems focus, Emmanuel, on what we call operational HR, manage leave, manage payroll. Those are operational issues. Before Uncle, as we say in Nigeria, there is much more to HR than just personnel management and record keeping. Where are the features and the modules for strategic HR management, for things like talent management, HR risk management, succession planning? A lot of the HR information software are not speaking to these issues. So you're not able to get the data, the quality data that you need to make effective people decisions. Yeah. So Emmanuel, those are areas that are very, very critical to us. So we certainly appreciate your feedback and your comments about needing to improve your capabilities around data management. So ladies and gentlemen of the Champions of HR Group, I think we've done a great job today. On the Champions of HR program, we've enjoyed the interactions, we've enjoyed the sharing, we've enjoyed your participation. To our new members, we welcome you and encourage you to join our WhatsApp group. And as we wind down today, we just reflect on what we have learned. We've learned plenty of things. We started with the theoretical foundations, goal setting theory, agency theory, accountability theory, all of these theories, person to job fits theory. These theories taught us and explained to us why performance management is important and how to do performance management based on solid research that has been done through the ages. Then we explored what performance management is, why it is important, the cardinal objective of performance management, which is to drive performance. We looked at some of the laws of performance management, including the first law that made Osamuyi and others giggle. Seek first the kingdom of co-created smart performance goals, and everything else will be added on to you. We explored issues and challenges of performance management, and we got lots of input from all our participants, both on the WhatsApp, both on the chat, as well as verbally. And then we also explored a number of best practices in performance management and some of the issues in the roles and responsibilities between the line managers, who are the primary drivers of performance, the HR professionals, who are the owners of performance and culture in the organization. You are the custodian of performance and culture. You are the expert in performance and culture. You are the fountain from which all of the capacity should be flowing. So we explore some of the gaps on the HR side and on the line manager side. And, Joy also reminded us about the responsibility for accountability from the employee themselves, who is the principal agent in the relationship, and how employees should rise to the occasion of taking ownership of their performance and driving the performance of the organization. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that's about it. It's a wrap for today. I'd just like to thank you for your time, for your attention, for your contributions in what was certainly a very learning and hopefully fun-filled experience today with the Champions of HR program. Lupe has just shared the link to the WhatsApp group. I can see that some people have already joined the WhatsApp group. And so we encourage you to join the group, become aware of the rules of engagement for the group. And we look forward to continuous conversations on that group. And of course, we look forward to continuous learning, networking, exchange of ideas, and growth. Our goal on the Champions of HR program is to build the strategic human resources management capabilities of HR practitioners so that we can go from beyond operational, beyond tactical, to becoming strategic partners in our organizations, and really taking and claiming our rightful seat at the strategic table in our various organizations, not just for the ego of it, but so that we can add value in transforming our organizations through people, partnering with our business leaders, partnering with our organizational leaders, our teams, and our department heads and unit heads, and so on and so forth. Right? So we want HR to deliver better organizations. Remember, at Learning Impact, our commitment is to help you to be better. And that's one of the things that the Champions of HR program does. Okay? So as usual, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, goodbye. Let's see if you will say goodbye back to me. Thank you very much for your feedback, Emmanuel.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
For the section. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Anika, Ene, Osamuyi. Excellent. Anthony, thank you very much. All right, take care, everybody. If you want to put on your cameras and you want to put on your audio, you can say goodbye to all of us. As we look forward to seeing you same time next month with another brilliant and hopefully impactful session that will make us better HR professionals. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good night.